Today's webcast is going to be a look at some things you can do with Dynamo, uh, but more specific to the schematic or early design phases of a project. Let's see here. So let's take a quick look at our agenda for today. I am going to do my best to convey to you what Dynamo actually is and some important background information with a few PowerPoint slides. Then I'll plan to shelf the PowerPoint and show you what it can do with a live demo. As far as the live demo goes, the focus today is going to be more on the schematic design side of things. So we'll have a lot of fun looking at that. Now, my goal is that by the end of this presentation, you will have a good understanding of how Dynamo can help you model things in Revit that might not have been attainable or super slow when modeled piece by piece or click by click inside of Revit. If you haven't seen it before, I'm super excited for you because when I first saw this, I instantly knew that everything I wanted to do with Revit, but just, couldn't feasibly accomplish was now all of a sudden possible. And I realized that if there was something I could imagine doing, there's a good chance it's now achievable with Dynamo. I'm not going to tell you that it can do everything, but the possibilities are just literally infinite, which I find super exciting. So after our live demo, I'll then show you some resources available. And of course, I'll save some time at the end for a Q&A. But if you have a question, you can type it into the chat window while you were thinking about it. And Brett will try to get you an answer at that time, or we could save it for the end. That would be fine too. I'll try to keep an eye on it as well, especially when we're going through the live demo. If questions pop up at that time, might be better to address it right then. So I encourage questions. I like that. All right. And before we just jump straight into the demo, I wanted to make sure everyone has just at least a baseline understanding of what Dynamo is. If you've been on some of my previous webcasts, you might have seen this slide before, so we'll run through it a little quickly. But I guess if someone were to ask me, hey, just like, what is Dynamo? Like, what is it? All right, that would be really hard to answer in one or two sentences because Dynamo is so much and can do an infinite amount of tasks, but I feel like I owe you at least a high level overview. So what we will be talking about is essentially Dynamo has access to the Revit API or the application programming interface, which means that it can utilize and extract data to be manipulated in a way that is not available with the standard Revit user interface. So, things that you just don't have a button for, or, there's no command for that. These are the things that are now available. So in a typical Dynamo workflow, it's going to take information from somewhere, whether it's Revit, Excel, or even Dynamo itself. We're going to kind of manipulate it, just run it through the ringer, extract some things, add some things, shuffle some stuff around, and then we're going to push it back out, either into Revit or Excel or Dynamo or some other output. So that's really kind of at a high level what it is. But you know, what for me personally, like what do I love about it? So first of all, it can do things with Revit that I just couldn't do before. It enabled access to things stored inside of Revit that users like myself had no previous way of accessing. I'm sure there's some programmers out there that didn't have any issues with this before, but for the average architect, engineer, drafter, or designer, we now have the tool set that we need. Um, the next part that I love about Dynamo is the automation. Dynamo can automate tasks for us, and the benefits, I like to say that they're threefold here. We can save time, ensure accuracy, and thoroughness of our work. Tasks that would take hours to complete manually can be done in seconds. Obviously, there's some upfront work to work on your scripts, but you know, once it's ready to roll, you can implement that as many times as you need across every project. You no longer have to worry about precision. For an example, if I have to manually enter the same piece of data 1,000 times, there's a good chance I'll have a typo in at least a few of those. And Dynamo is going to do whatever we tell it to do. So you can avoid precision errors that would occur with repetitive manual entry. And the third benefit here is going to be thoroughness. If I need to manually update a parameter on every column in the project, there's a good chance I'm going to miss one or overlook one. However, if I tell Dynamo to do this for me, I can ensure a far superior result. Let's see what else we got here. Just a couple more. So I'm working under the assumption that everyone's kind of got a good enough understanding about BIM or building information modeling by now. If not, no big deal. Dynamo is essentially just a tool that will take your BIM data or workflows and just make them better. And one of the best parts about that is that it comes installed with Revit. So if you have the full version of Revit installed, you already have Dynamo. You could have totally missed that if you weren't looking for it, but there's a button for Dynamo inside of Revit on the Manage tab. When you click on that, it will launch the application in a separate window. And I wanted to save this part till the end, but since it's totally integrated with Revit, there's no additional cost as far as the software is concerned. If you have Revit, you have Dynamo. So what else is it? Well, it's an open source graphical programming platform. Let's break that part down a little. So the open source software is software with source code that anyone can inspect, modify, and enhance. Then there's the graphical or visual programming aspect. If you're not familiar with visual programming, all it means is that you're actually still doing computer programming, but except that it lets us author our programs with very user-friendly illustrations on the screen instead of hundreds of lines of text. And on this example on the slide, I was able to create a model of the arch just by stringing together a few nodes. And if you take someone like me, before this really had, it's kind of zero traditional programming experience, I was able to quickly kind of learn how to put something like this together. It's definitely very intuitive for people with more of a graphical mindset. It's basically just like taking pieces of a puzzle and arranging them on the screen right in front of your eyes. Now, if you are more of a traditional programmer and you prefer the thousands of lines of code approach, I have more good news for you. You can totally still do that, even with the easy scripts, but a lot of workflows will actually require some sort of external coding. It's integrated with Python. I don't plan to show anything that complicated today. everything that I plan to show here will just be out of the box, pretty much. So, and created with graphic nodes. So a very cool thing that has grown out of this open source nature of Dynamo is there's a huge community of collaborators that share knowledge and information for free. So sometimes people have created very useful workflows and grouped them into packages that can be easily found, downloaded and installed. It's actually, you can do that right from within Dynamo. And like I was saying, yeah, most of what I'm going to show you is not going to require a package, but they are pretty easy to install. If we do run across one, I'll kind of elaborate on that a little more. Let's see. So, in other words, some of the more complicated nodes that required lots of lines of text coding have kind of already been done. And due to the open source nature, they're already available for people like me to use, which is pretty awesome. All right, so before we do the demo, live demo inside of Revit and Dynamo, I've got a few disclaimers. So usually when you use Dynamo, you're going to have dual monitors, but since we can only share one screen at a time, I'll try to squish everything into one instead of two. Another thing is this presentation is, I've said this a couple times already, but it's very focused on the schematic design side of Dynamo rather than more of like a general overview of everything it can do. It's a great tool for finding efficiencies in construction documentation, amongst many other things. However, as advertised, this presentation is more focused on the SD side of things. So in an effort to spend more time kind of, really drilling into some of those ideas, we'll focus our attention on that. If you are interested in what else it can do, just stay tuned, because I'll share some links and resources for you at the end of our session here today. Also, so sorry up front if we have a crash. I would say there's a very high probability that we will have a crash or two, and that will most likely because if I accidentally told Dynamo to do something really stupid. So it's my fault, not Dynamo. If it does happen, we'll work around it. And I really like the fact that I can make it crash. And the reason is because if it does happen, with the standard Revit user interface, there's safety measures built in to ensure that you don't accidentally tell Revit to perform an operation that would overload the software and cause a crash. With Dynamo, you pretty much have free reign. You can tell the software to do whatever you want. So there's always a chance. And that's what I think is awesome, because you have the ability to literally tell it to do 10 billion operations at once. And obviously something like that could cause a crash. But just the fact that you have that power is pretty exciting. In any event, I'll point out some things that you can do to be prepared for any potential crash, or just things that mitigate that as part of our live demo. And but yeah, I got lots of disclaimers here. So one more, I'm sure there are way easier ways to do some of the things I'm about to show, but most of this was done on my own with a little bit of help from the web. And some of these scripts were done a while ago, and a few nodes have been added to replace groups of nodes. So feel free to point out something or a quick tip if you want. Just put it in the chat window. Always love to see that. And then the other thing is, the first thing we have to do is open up a Revit project file for it to work with. And then once you have a file open, Dynamo will be connected to that one project. So you just want to be aware of that. So yeah, let's just jump in here. Let me pause this. Let's see. Yeah, let's switch over to Revit here. All right, so right now we're just in Revit right now. I'm gonna open up data set that I have here. So this is just a Revit project with a simple mass copied in. And when I webcasts, I try to do things that you might be able to reproduce on your end. So you don't have to do this now, but just so you know, I was able to download this mass from dynamobim.org. It's all here. You can download this from this page here and you will have this. There's links for the data sets and there's some videos that will, show you how to do some of the things that I'm going to show you today too. Great resource here. But at any rate, the only thing that I did differently was I copied this mass element out of the data set, pasted it into my own default template, just so we could be working with imperial instead of metric today. So like when I click on this mass, you can see all the dimension parameter values are in feet and inches. All right, so what are we looking at here? So typical starting point for a lot of schematic design projects or a lot of construction projects is starting with some sort of building mass shape. And you might want to look at this and kind of play around with it and flex it. And that's exactly what we have here. If I click on this mass element, you can see I've got like the floors in here. Now, eventually this will be the form of my building, but for early schematic design, I might want to be flexing some of these parameters. Maybe I want the building width to be closer to 300, and I can extend it out that way, or let me undo that. This one's kind of exciting. I've got this lift up value here. Let's bump that up a little and see what happens. So that kind of changes this little outer height of this thing right here. Bumps it up a little higher. Let's make it a little more dramatic here. Click on that, find this parameter value. Let's bump it up to like 60. Just so you can kind of see what's going on here. All right, but the problem here is that when I click on this, I have to go and find the parameter that I want every time. And what I really want to do is to be able to quickly manipulate these and see changes very quickly to this form so I can see what works, what doesn't work, and things like that. And that's where Dynamo is going to come in here. So let me undo some of the changes I made here. And let's go to the Manage tab and launch Dynamo. So again, this is where it pops up in another screen. We're going to do like half screens here. Let's try to dock this over to the right side. There we go. All right, so I already have a script going here for this. Let's open that up. So let's take a look at what this is here. This is what Dynamo looks like, and this is a simple script. And what it's doing is this right here is selecting that mass element, and then what's happening here is this node is getting the parameter value for the lift up, or I'm sorry, it's getting the parameter for lift up. And there's a whole bunch of other ones to choose from, but we want to deal with the lift up one here. And then you just kind of follow the path here. Where's it going? Well, it's going to this node here that sets the parameter value by name. So here's my value here, and it's connected to a slider. So let's just see what happens here. Let's see what happens when we move this slider. Keep your eye on the mass element here. So we can take the slider here and move this around as needed and see the changes right on our screen. So, I mean, right there, the fish just right then and there, I don't have to click on this and then, you know, incrementally change that. It's much better if I can just kind of just move the slider and kind of see like, maybe I want it like that's too little, that's too much. Maybe I want it right about there. Perfect. Stop it. And then see what the value is. So that's the first thing. But when I click on this, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I got like 7 or 8 values here that I might want to flex. So we could very quickly add in a few more here. I could select these, Control C, Control V, just copy them down here, and then change a couple things around here. Maybe instead of the lift up value, I'm going to flex the width. So I'll disconnect the value for now, because if I were to switch this parameter straight to the width, it would instantly switch the width to 40. I think that's going to be too low. So let's find the building width parameter, and then I can check here. The actual width's probably 196, so I can change my range here. Maybe let's go from like a minimum of 150 width to 500. So I change the range of the slider, and then I'll feed that value back in here. So I can play around with this, make this building bigger or smaller, change that lift up parameter value up or down. But this is kind of messy. One thing you could do here is, so you saw that I had to copy a lot of this stuff here in order for it to work. Why would it, if I have to do that for 8 or 10 different parameters, that could get really messy really quickly. So what I can actually do is I can consolidate some of this. So I could delete one of those and just create a list. Add in some more items here, feed the parameters list, and then kind of slowly overwrite some of these. So if you get an error, that's right, and it's cancel. We'll fix that in a minute. But then I'll have to make another list here for these values. So just kind of just doing a little redecorating here. So you can check these nodes and you can see what's in each list. So right now I got a list of the parameters. This one's the lift up. This is the building width at 0, 1, and then the corresponding values on this list. And when I feed that back in here, it'll work like it was before. It's just a little cleaner rather than copying and pasting everything. So, you know, why did I do that? Well, you know, if it gets a little more complex, let's close this graph out, close that. Let's undo some of the parameter values we changed here. And then I'll open this one. Let's say we got multiple lists here. So now I've got, let's switch it over to automatic here. Let's say I've got all 8 or 10 parameter values, and I've got them all connected to sliders. So with this mass here, all I have to do is just kind of tweak these around a little bit, and I can kind of see on the screen what we have here. This one's, yeah, that's the length. This one might be building height. And then we've also got one for, well, atrium offset, maybe make that hallway a little bigger, a little smaller. So just gives you a lot more efficiency here. Now, not everybody's going to start their schematic design projects with a mass element. Some people like to actually use real building elements. So what if you want to do that? Well, let's do that. Why not? Let's X out of here. I'll X out of here. And I'm going to save that. Second. So for this, I'm going to start a new project from the structural template, just because it's got a bunch of beams and columns and stuff that I want to use. And this is straight out of the box. This is the straight out of the box Revit structural template. The only thing I'm going to do to set this up is maybe bump level 2 up to about 30 feet. All right, so what do I want to do here? All right, so I have this idea, right? I want to, I'm going to draw on some model lines here. I'm going to draw a circle here, a small circle. That's going to be the oculus of my building. Then maybe I've got another model line that's going to be the outline here, right? And what I want to do is model some beams. So we got our favorite plumbing consultant as always to help us out here. So what I want to do is I want to model some beams from certain points of this circle to certain points of the outer circle, right? Now you could do this manually in Revit, right? No problem with that. You know, and I want these evenly spaced, and I want certain defined start and end points. I could draw that in Revit, but it's going to take forever. I'm going to have to make each click, and then if I want to change it, I'm going to have to update every single one. And this is where I can very quickly leverage something like Dynamo. All I needed to do was just draw in a couple of model lines, a couple model line circles. So let's take this idea and let's just run with it. Let's go back to Dynamo here. Oh, I didn't launch Dynamo here. Manage Dynamo. New graph here. So the first thing I need to do is pull these model lines into Dynamo. So I can do that with the select model element node here, and I'm going to need 2 of them. I'll click on the first one here and select the oculus, and you can right click on that and rename it. That way I just keep it organized and I know what's what here, because it's gonna get you know, there's gonna be a lot going on here, and if we rename that, we'll kind of know what we're looking at here. So then I'll click the select button here, choose the outer part. I can rename that too. I don't need to, but it helps. All right, so now that I've brought these into Dynamo, I need to get their underlying geometry. So I can do that by going to get the underlying element curve. And what I'm doing now is I'm searching the library of nodes that we have. Curve element. And I'll need 2 of these because I've got 2. I could create a list, but I want to keep these separate anyway. So I'll connect these together, and look at that. It instantly draws in that oculus. Connect this together. It instantly draws in the outer circle. I can switch back to the graph part. And what do I ultimately want to do here? Ultimately, what I want to do is place some beams in here. Remember, that's ultimately what I want to do, is put in some structural beams. So let's see if there's a node to place a structural beam. Sure enough, there's one that says beam by curve. That tells me a lot, actually. It tells me that I need a curve element, and it will create a beam based upon that element. So when I look at this node, I need to tell it 3 things in order to draw the beam for me. So I have the last 2 are easy. I'm gonna have to do some work for the first one because I haven't drawn the lines that are needed yet. Like these spokes here, I need to draw those in. I don't have them yet, but I can easily tell it the level and the structural framing type. Maybe I'll take care of that now. So let's find that. Structural framing. And what it will do is it searches the file that I have open, and we can pick a framing type, feed that in. Notice it turns blue because it's now the data is good, it's connected. And then we can queue the levels from Revit. I can find, just got level 1 and level 2. I can feed that in here. Now this is the one that's going to take a little bit of time. I need to draw in the lines that I need where I want the beams to go. All right, so how do I do that? Well, what do I have so far? I have the circles. So what I can do is I can find this line node by start and end point. That's a good start here. And all I need to draw the lines is some start and end points. Now, I can easily add points around both of these circles and use those as the starting and end points. That's what I'm going to do now. And add some points on each one of those circles. Point at parameter. I'll probably need 2 of these again. So connect those. And when I connect that, you'll see it already added the first points. And it lists the coordinates of those, but I need more than just one. So what I can do is I can actually create a range of numbers that it can use to add those points. So shorthand here, I just double click to add a code block. I can start. Let me step back a minute. Every element, whether it's a circle or a line or an ellipse, it has a start point represented as 0 and an end point represented as 1. And for the circle, it's probably the exact same spot, but I can represent different points along this curve element with a decimal point between 0 and 1. So what I need to do is find a range of numbers equally spaced between 0 and 1. And this is how I'm going to do that. I'm going to zoom in here and say I want a range of points from 0 to 1. Software tell me, or I'm going to tell the software to split it evenly between a variable here. My variable is going to be number of beams. It could be, I typed in number of beams as my variable, but you could type X, Y, Z, and as soon as you do that, it adds an input for number of beams. And now I can just use a integer slider to tell the number of beams that I want. So how many do I want here? Well, let's say I want maybe a minimum of 10 and a maximum of 40. And we'll just kind of settle on like 22 or 23 or something. Feed that in here. So what this does is gives me a list of numbers between 0 and 1 that are all equally spaced. And then I can feed that value into the parameter for both of those. And let's move this down here so it's out of the way. It splits all those circles in up for me, or it doesn't split them, it just adds points evenly spaced. And if I move the slider up or down, it's going to add these however many I need in here. Okay. All right. So how does that help us here? Well, I now have those points and I can just connect the dots here. I've got the start and I've got the end points. And there it is. All right. So before I even add the beams in, let's take a look at what this does here. You can see a little preview of it on the Revit side. Yeah, let's go to a default 3D view here. So you just kind of, you see the model lines and you see the rig that we've built up. And if I move this around, it automatically updates. If I move the oculus or the outer, it updates basically exactly what I wanted it to do. So Dynamo's already kind of helping me visualize this thing. It's already kind of doing its job already because it's all connected. All right, so let's connect this last piece here and it should draw in some beams for us. And sure enough, there they are. So I can now look at this and evaluate this and think, is this really what I want? Is this turning out how I wanted it? And I didn't have to draw in every single one. And if I want to make a quick update, I can just move this around. Say, no, you know, it needs to be more like this, or it's too close, or did I really put this at 8 feet? No, it's got to be 9. And it instantly updates this. But you know what? Why don't we just push this a little further? Let's just keep going. We got some time here. What if we want to add in some columns? We could do that too. We've got a node for that. So let's look for column by curve. Very similar to this last one. So column by curve. So I need the level, and I need the column type, and I need a curve. So I'll have to draw the curve. But I can copy this level node that we already have, change it to 1, because I want it to start at level 1 and go up. And then column type, let's look for structural column type. Got to spell it right. So this will cue the model for whatever kind of column types we have loaded in. And now I just need to draw in some lines here for those columns. Let's take a look here. So how can I do that? Well, it's on the outside. These will be a good start because I can take those and I can copy them down. The simple translate node. Translate, geometry translate, X, Y, Z. I just need to go in the Z direction. So I got those points and I want to go minus 30 in the Z direction. And that instantly draws a copy of the points 30 feet down. And I can now draw a line using the line command, your line by start and end point. And the start point is going to be the lower ones, and the end point was already connected. So now all I have to do is just tell it where the curve is. So while we're doing this, keep your eye on the screen here. Oh, okay. And I said I was going to show you some crash mitigating techniques. So right now I'm running this in automatic mode, which means that everything that I do over in Dynamo instantly updates Revit. You can switch it to manual mode and then save and then click run. That's a little safer, but I've done the one a few times, so I'm familiar with running in automatic mode. It's okay. But for this, keep your eye on the screen here, because as soon as I connect this, our columns are going to get added in here. So now that we've got this, I can see, is this idea really working out for me? Well, you know, maybe I realize it's not, and I need to make a change here. When I move it over, I don't have to move a lot of this stuff. Dynamo is just gonna put it back where it needs to go here based upon the script that I've got running. While I'm thinking about it, one of the other great things right now is that if you were to save this Revit file, save the Dynamo script, reopen it tomorrow, it would try to rebuild this entire thing and you would get duplicates of it, but that's no longer the case. If I need to open this Revit model and this script, it's all now connected. So it finds the associated geometry and it will update the existing stuff rather than adding new stuff, which is kind of nice. Let's put a floor in here. Let's do that. Why not? I'll do the same thing here. I'm gonna take that circle that I had, same concept here. I'm gonna make a copy of that circle, that outer circle. We'll lower here, right? Where's that outer circle? Outer circle, take the curve element, copy it down. Why did I do that? Well, because I have a floor node here. Let's find the floor node. Floor by outline type and level. Perfect. So the title of it, again, tells you the information that you're going to need to build it. So I've already got the outline. There it is there. Floor type, I'll have to find that. There it is. It's already there. Floor types. So let's just do a generic 12-inch. The level. I already have level 1 here. I can recycle that and just add in there. And then sure enough, there's, let's open this. Oh, yeah, let's take a look at this. So if we go into a shaded view, there's this building, and again, it's all based upon the Dynamo script that's running and those two model lines. So I can make any adjustments as needed. You know, maybe I want to change the, yeah, let's make it a little bigger. I'm just going to rebuild that for me. So we can really quickly iterate our design ideas without having to like scrap what we've done and redraw it. See what's working, see what's not working. This is really fun. Let's do a camera view here. I don't know if you could do this. You can adjust the eye and target heights here. Let's go back to a fine level of detail and a shaded view here and just kind of walk through a little bit. If we really wanted to get crazy, we could even add in some, we could add in some beams on the inner and outer circle, but I think just in the interest of time, we might do one other thing. But you could definitely do that too. And again, it'll all be updated by those two model lines. Any adjustment to those model lines will update your entire rig here. So Dynamo won't run in a camera view. You got to be in an orthogonal 3D view or elevation view or floor plan. But let's do one more thing here, and then we'll open it up for Q&A. Let's do this. Let's add in a value here that moves the oculus up and down. So we're going to do that. Well, let's say here's my oculus and here's the curve element. Let's do a translate here. I can copy that, Control C, Control V. There's the geometry. Let's translate it with a number slider this time. No, that's a number node. I want a slider. There we go. For slider, I can change the range here. Let's go to -20. So I can go 20 feet lower and maybe 20 feet higher. And then feed that into the Z offset. And you can see it made a copy here. Let's use that copy here. So I'll just swap it out. And now it just kind of redrew the whole thing for me. Let's see what that looks like now in Revit. So now I can move this up or down. So it's going to kind of look something like that. So, you know, it's going to take a little bit longer for it to update because it's got a lot to model now. But now you can kind of quickly take a look at these kind of things. And, you know, you don't have to waste your time modeling and remodeling. You could see what works, what doesn't work very quickly with this. Okay, so let's see here. Let's take a look at some resources here. So what helped me learn the software? Well, the first couple things you might need, you already have. You might already have. The most important is just the desire to learn it. And next is just a few minutes. That's kind of all it takes to just get started, you know, just dive in. A good place to start is to run through the Dynamo Primer. There's a link up here. It's free, takes you through the basics. Bunch of videos on the Dynamo website. That's again where I got that mass from, and there's a whole lot of other things and scripts. The audio is not great, and it's in the metric system, but I can, that's the things, you know, I can help you out with that. But yeah, if you would like to learn with a live instructor like myself and learn how to do some of the things you saw today, I'd be happy to teach you. That's one of the things I love to do most. And we do have a standard class for Dynamo, but I'm always happy to put a customized lesson plan together and teach you everything I know about Dynamo. And in fact, I think it's actually better for us to run a custom class with Dynamo, since everyone has very unique needs when it comes to the software. And, you know, it's kind of hard to find a generic lesson for this, because everyone has like an ultimate and something ultimately a little different than everybody else. It's kind of hard to find that one size fits all. So that's why I kind of recommend the custom route. And your best bet here is just to go ahead and contact your Hagerman and Company sales rep, and we'll work together to put a class together for you. Typically, you know, a half day to a full day will be a good start, and then we can just dial it up from there if needed. And all the rest you need is just the desire to learn it, and we can take it from there for sure. And here's some of my business contact information. Do not hesitate to reach out. One of the reasons I do this is to meet and collaborate with folks like yourselves. So feel free to chat me up via any of the platforms shown here. If you want to share some of the cool things you've done, or you know, you're kind of stuck on something, I love seeing that kind of stuff. You know, it's find that super satisfying to see what everyone's working on. Because you know, I get excited when I see things done with the software. And with that, yeah, thank you all very much, and I'd be happy to kind of take a look at the kind of Q&A panel here. Of course, so if anybody's got any questions, just feel free to type them in now. I can get you an answer. We'll do it. I'll do it live right now, and if not, type your question anyway. If we didn't get to it, I will follow up, even if I have to do it later today or uh, let's see here. Yeah, that's seen. Oh wait, let's see. Looks like a couple are coming in. Okay, I'll take a minute to review these. Yeah, just keep the questions coming in, and we'll kind of look at these as we go here. Right. Okay, it looks like we got one here. Can you also use that? Yeah, we can create families with Dynamo. Especially, yeah, like you saw placing families, but yeah, creating one from scratch. Let me think about that. Yeah, that might be a fun one for another webcast for sure. So I'll just give it another minute or so if anybody's got any other questions. If you think of a question after we end the session, yeah, just feel free to either send myself or your sales rep an email. We'll be sure to get you an answer on that. So, if there's any other topics you'd like to see, let us know. Oh, okay, wait, hang on. Looks like we might have a few more coming in. All right, looks like we have a question. Joshua wants to know if we can recognize properties from dynamic blocks. That I do not know. Great question. Let me know if you have tried it and ran into uh, issue trying to do that. Let me know. If not, I have not done that personally, but yeah, I'd be happy to look into that for you. Definitely can't answer that question right now. Great question there. Right on. All right. Well, not seeing any more questions. We'll just give it another couple seconds, and if not, I will hand it back over uh, to Ashley here. And again, thanks everyone for joining today.
Okay, yes, thank you for joining. Thanks for the presentation, Dan. Once again, if you would take a few moments to fill out a short survey, we would appreciate it. There is a question in there about any topic ideas that you might have, and we do look those over. And also, if you want to put your AIA number in question number 4 of that survey, we can submit that for you if you need that. Also, just look out for that email tomorrow, which will contain a link for the recording of today's presentation. Have a great day, everyone. Thanks.